There's three levels of struggling that every ambitious person has to go through. And I went through all of them. So trust me when I say I'm an expert on this subject. But I was able to break through those levels and lock in on my goals. And as a result, I started a business and got clients for it. I've been consistently posting on YouTube, and I'm living my version of a productive, forward moving, growing, loving, best life. And if you want the same thing too, then there's some levels you've got to break through. And the first one, level one, is the average world we're living in. I remember back when I worked at Walmart years ago, I was eating lunch with one of my coworkers, and I was just asking her, what does she do? How does she spend her time? Because during this time period, I was realizing how little potential people are using. And this conversation was just like a hit in the face for me. Because when I asked her, like, what does she want to do with her life? Like, what are her goals? Obviously, I'm not being like, do you know what you want? But like, I'm just subtly asking questions a certain way so I can kind of get deeper into her mind. And I asked her, like, how does she spend her time? And she looked at me and said, girl, I don't do anything but sit on my phone and wait to go to work. That is it. And that was like a gut punch because I've been hearing that so often. Like at my job, I'd ask everybody I came across questions to get a deeper understanding of where they were headed in life, their mindset. And a lot of people, they weren't using their time to the best of their abilities. They were just entertaining themselves, honestly. They were just entertaining themselves. And then the crazy thing is, these same people had dreams and ambitions. They could tell me exactly what they want to do. But when it came down to doing it, it was excuses or it was just entertainment. And I was in this average world for so long, where like for most of my life, I lived it like it was a summer vacation. Like I got bad sleep, I stayed up late, always playing the game, always on my phone, always just chilling out, never doing any hard work. I was not in the gym, I was not working on my mastery, I was not learning anything. I was literally just having fun, like living like it was a summer vacation. And I never really liked it. I always had the voice of ambition telling me I could do more. But when it came down to doing more, I felt like I couldn't because I felt like all I could do was just entertain myself because that's what I have been exposed to all my life. We are in a world where it's common to stay indoors, never get out, watch TV all day, be on your phone, and don't work on your ambitions, work a job and let other people get rich off of you, and you stay in the same situation, the same spot you're in, where you get worse actually, and then you die. Do you know how many people die with regret? And the reason is because they're stuck in this average world. And what happens is because we are social creatures, we are social animals, we are highly influenced by our environment. So if we're in an environment that's average, what are we going to be? Average. And so you have this voice of ambition inside of you. And there's things you want to do, but you're not doing it. You can't understand why. It's because of the world you're living in. The world wants you to be average. And I need you to really understand this and wake up to it. Because when you understand that the world wants you to be average, then you will take the advice I'm going to give you more seriously. Which is, if you want to break past this level, this is the first level you gotta break past. The first level is you have to be not of this world. And this is the tool I'm gonna give you. Get out of this average world. Do not do what the average person is doing. Surround yourself with top hitters. Because we are highly influenced, first of all, by the people we spend most of our time with. But most people are average. We spend most of our time with average people. And when I say average, I don't mean it in like a derogatory term. It's just, there are averages. The 5%, the 95%, like it just is. So until you understand that you're living in an average world that's making you average, you're not going to change. You're gonna have that voice of ambition like everybody else does, but you're not going to switch up what you're doing. You're not gonna try any new tactics because there's no urgency, there's no need for you because because it's not. There won't be a need for you to do what I'm suggesting you to do if you don't understand your average world, because to get the successful life you want, there's so many things you gotta do differently. And the driving force behind why you'll do those things is because you don't want to be average anymore. And so when I tell you some of these things, you're gonna be like, this is so weird, I've never heard this, I don't want to do this, seems like effort. That voice you hear inside your head is the voice of the average person. And this is why it's so powerful. It's so important that you understand you cannot be of this world, because this world will make you average. And I hope I'm really getting this point across. I really hope I am. So moving forward, once you understand that the world we're in is average and it's making you average and it's stifling your potential, the next question is, what can you do to fix this? I already said it earlier. Be not of this world. And how can you not be of this world? It all comes down to reshaping your environment so that you are around top hitters. You're in a high vibrational space, basically. And to do this, all you gotta do is first look at what the average person is doing and do the exact opposite. So the average person, they don't read. You need to read. The average person doesn't go to the gym. They don't work out. You ain't gotta go to the gym, but do something. For me, my version of working out is going for an hour walk. And you see in my videos, I've been doing it. The only reason I make videos inside is because the wind is like my biggest op right now. But do something to work out. The average person, what do they do? Complain, victim blame. I don't want to say victim blame because victims are real. Complain, blame, run away from responsibility. So what you gotta do? Don't do that. You take responsibility. Don't place the blame. You find solutions. What does that person do? They spend most of the time watching TV, playing games. So what do you need to do? Spend less time playing games, watching TV, being on your phone, and spend more time growing, developing your skills, self-developing, things of that nature. And the biggest thing to not be of this world is to change up what's getting in your mind. That's honestly the biggest way to change. Because your mind determines how you see the world. So if you have an average mindset, you're going to see the world as an average person. But if you have a winner's mindset, you'll see the world as a winner and you actually take it on and you'll become the winner. So how do you change what's getting up in your mind? I'm gonna put a mindset resources in my description. And basically what this is gonna have is books, thought leaders, music, these things that seminars, videos, things you can tap into that will put you in a that will give you resources that aren't average. I know I worded it so weirdly, but these things, if you plug into it, you'll be putting in high vibrational messages into your mind. So first you want to put in the good stuff in your mind, but you also want to get away from the bad stuff. If somebody's complaining to you, get away from them. If you're on social media and you see it's all negative, which you really shouldn't be, but if you happen to be and it's negative, get off of it. If the news is playing and it makes you feel bad, get away from it. Because that's all average messages getting into your mind. You have to be really safeguarded about your mind. And maybe I'll make another video. Is that a spider? Oh my God. There's a spider. I want to kill it. I gotta kill it. Hold on. I'm gonna kill the spider. I'm sorry. I killed it. Okay, so like I was saying, you want to change up what's getting on in your mind. And why this is so important is I remember thinking about YouTube. I was about to quit YouTube. Like in the beginning of this year, not the beginning of this year, but the beginning of 2024, I was about to quit YouTube because I just felt so defeated, like I wasn't getting anywhere, and I felt like I was never going to achieve what I wanted to, because it had been years at this point of me trying YouTube, and I still wasn't getting any views. Like nothing was happening for me. But I heard this voice pop up. I'm like in my head, like, oh my gosh, you quit. And the voice was Les Brown, a motivational speaker. Someone that I've been listening to for years up to that point. And he said, you know you can do it, so just do it. And when I heard that, it was like I immediately flipped. And I was like, you're right. I can do this. I'm going to figure this out. And I've been posting still. I have not given up. And my business has been growing. I've gotten clients. I'm learning more about YouTube. My speaking skills are getting better. And I would not have gotten here if I hadn't been putting in high vibrational messages into my mind, so that when I was in moments of down, gloom, and doom, the thoughts in my head weren't negative. It was positive and uplifting and gave me the energy and the force and the drive to keep going. Now compare that to when I was at my grandma's and I was telling her about my dreams and my ambitions and what I was trying to do. And she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You hope that will happen." And I was like, "No, I don't hope it will happen. I know it will happen." She was trying to put the idea in my mind that there was possibility that this wouldn't happen. And the average person will do way worse than that. They will try to drag you down. They try to make you see all the reasons why you can't. And then you get down to your mind, and then when you're in these doom and gloom moments, you're gonna tell yourself, "Oh, I can't. Oh, I give up. This isn't gonna work for me." That's why it's so important that you're not of this world. You create an atmosphere of high vibrational messages. All right. So once you realize that the world is average, and you step away, you get away from the people who are complaining, the negative people, the cynicist, and you get into an environment where it's high, it's uplifting. You listen to music with good lyrics. You're reading books instead of watching social media and killing your brain. You actually sit down and read books that enlighten you and tell you more information. You listen to motivational speakers. You listen to seminars that help you improve your character. What's the next level? Number 2 is fixing your dopamine levels. This is such a major turning point. And until you fix your dopamine, you will continue to never work on the things you know you want to work on. Because so many of us want to do things. We know what we want from life, but we don't do it. And the reason is because our dopamine is low. Now, to make this more concrete for you, let me give you this study, an example that I heard from Andrew Huberman, who is a professor at Stanford. I used to be saying Yale or Harvard. And when I watched one of his podcast yesterday, I was like, I didn't figure out where did this guy work at. It was Stanford. I didn't have it right, but now I know. So anyway, this neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman, well-known, millions of followers, subscribers on YouTube. He makes long educational videos. He was talking about dopamine, and he gave an experiment where he said there are these 2 rats, right? And one rat had dopamine, and the other rat was depleted of all its dopamine. They put these rats in cages and gave them each cheese. So the rats both ate the cheese and enjoyed it. So it was, first of all, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Before I go deep into the experiment, let me premise this by saying dopamine is a chemical inside your body that most of us think of as pleasure. Like if you eat chocolate, you feel pleasure. If dopamine releases your body, you feel pleasure. You talk to a friend, dopamine releases your body, you feel pleasure. You take drugs, tons of dopamine releases, you feel pleasure. So people assume that dopamine is your pleasure. Now getting back to the rat study, when they gave the rat with no dopamine and a rat with dopamine cheese, they both enjoyed it. And there is a way you can see how rats enjoy it. Like they do something, but they could tell that both rats enjoy the cheese. So it was concluded that dopamine is not needed for pleasure. So then the question was, what is dopamine needed for? So the scientists moved the cheese away, and this is when it was revealed what dopamine is needed for. The rat with dopamine went and got the cheese. The rat without dopamine did not move. In fact, it would have starved to death unless the researcher put the cheese in its mouth. So then the conclusion was, dopamine is not needed for pleasure. Dopamine is needed for the motivation to go through the hard work, to put in the effort to get the thing that gives pleasure. So what this means is, dopamine is not our pleasure chemical, it's our motivation chemical. Now back to you. Have you ever thought, if only I could feel like it, if only I could have the motivation to do what I want, then I could do it? Because I know for a long time I thought that. Like I felt like I could not do what I wanted. I could not work on my goals unless I had the motivation, unless I felt like it. And the only problem was I felt like it. I had the motivation every once in a blue moon. It was never consistent. But the reason it wasn't consistent wasn't because I just didn't have the motivation. Well, technically, it's because I didn't have the chemical dopamine inside of me. Andrew Huberman says dopamine is the currency for success. The more dopamine you have, the more success you can get into your life, because you'll have this unending energy, this motivation, this feeling of I can do it. You can go through the hard work to put in the actions needed to achieve your goal. So the question becomes, first, how do you lose dopamine? You lose dopamine whenever you experience pleasure. Now, there's 2 types of pleasures you can feel: high pleasure and low pleasure. High pleasure comes from drugs, highly stimulating clips on social media, constant TV binging, sleeping in late, Well, it's not like a high, but things that are just so stimulating drain a lot of your dopamine. And the problem is, we live in a world, an average world, where we do a lot of things that are highly stimulating. It's common to watch TV all day. It's common to be on social media all day. It's common to take drugs. It's common to eat fast foods. That's been crafted in the freaking laboratory to give you the maximum amount of pleasure, and it's all having massive effects on your dopamine, because the more pleasure you're experiencing, like dopamine you're gonna have, and now you're gonna be in this dilemma where you have these big thoughts, you have the voice of ambition telling you can do this, you can do that, but you do not have to drive to get there. Now, regular pleasure is one thing. High pleasure is one thing, but what's regular pleasure? Regular pleasure is what I'm doing right now. Regular pleasure is me just talking to a camera, and regular pleasure is going outside for a walk. Regular pleasure is getting a yo-yo and teaching yourself how to yo-yo. Regular pleasure is having a hobby like juggling, where instead of sitting on your phone and scrolling, you spend time just practicing a skill that is fun to you. Like, that's regular pleasure. And the thing is, you can spend as much time as you want doing regular things for pleasure, and your dopamine will not be as impacted. So you'll always have an unending drive to do the work, like I do. It is, where's my phone? It is right now 6:28 a.m. Hold on. Can you see it? Can you see it? My phone messed it up. I was so sorry. 6:28 a.m. The sun's coming up pretty soon. I've been up since 4. I had a coaching call at 4:30. Got off that and immediately started recording this video. When I finish, I'm going to go for a walk and read. And the only reason I'm able to do this is because I have dopamine inside of me. It's because when I'm not working, when I'm just chilling, I don't spend that time on my phone. I don't spend that time eating bad foods. I don't spend that time watching TV. I spend that time either reading a book or being in silence, calling my friends on the phone, practicing a hobby, doing regular things for fun. Now, when you do this, when you start doing regular things for fun instead of these high stimulating things, you will be bored. Just expect that, and it's okay. It's okay to be bored. Don't run from your feelings. If you're bored, then that's motivation, that's inspiration to find something and do, but do not run to high stimulating things. Now, how can you fix your dopamine? Now you understand dopamine is your motivational chemical, and you can lose dopamine from either highly pleasurable things or regular pleasurable things, and it's better to do regular pleasurable things. The more regular pleasures you have, the more dopamine you have, because it doesn't drain as much as the high pleasures. Next question is, how do you use this, right? 2 things. I have a dopamine guidebook where I go into deep detail about everything you're going to need, which I highly recommend you go checking out. It's free. Why not? And then the third one is, the second advice I can give you is to ask yourself this question. Whenever you do something, ask yourself, would my ancestors from 100 years ago do this? Or even 1,000 years ago? So for example, let's say you get on your phone, you get on social media. Before you start scrolling, before you get into this hole of this watching endlessly, ask yourself, will my ancestors 1,000 years ago do this? No, they did not have access to phones, so they would not get on it. Okay, so let's say you get on social media. Now you ask yourself, now you go into the kitchen and you want to cook something because you have nothing to do. You're going to cook dinner. You're going to cook lunch. Will my ancestors 1,000 years ago do this? Yeah. They would cook, so you go ahead and do that. You cook a lunch, you eat it, you go ahead, you get on Netflix, you want to binge for a few hours. You ask yourself, would my ancestors do this 1,000 years ago? No, they wouldn't. They didn't know what Netflix was. They don't go on Netflix. Instead, you decide, okay, well, if I can't watch Netflix, can I listen to music? Can I just sit and listen to music and maybe go outside? Yeah, because my ancestors, they wouldn't have access to Apple Music, but they could listen to music. People would play it, so why not, So that's basically how you're going to use that question. And every time you do something, you ask that self, you're going to be reprogramming yourself. You're going to start noticing how much high pleasure things you're exposed to, and you're going to be able to pull away from that more often and redirect to regular amounts of pleasure. And after a few weeks of doing this, you're going to notice a shift in your motivational energy. Next time when you start hearing that voice of ambition telling you can do this, you can do that, instead of saying I would like to do that, you'll actually have the effort. You'll be able to get up and do it. You'll be able to do the hard work, and it won't feel like a hassle to you. You actually feel like doing it, and it's because you have your dopamine inside of you. your motivational chemicals. All right. Now the third stage. So you've broken past the first stage. You realize you're in the average world. You stop doing what the average person is doing, and you get yourself in with hard hitters. The next stage is you break out of your dopamine deficit. You improve your dopamine, which means you improve your ability to do the hard work to achieve your goals. The third thing is having no clarity. Imagine I told you to walk into a dark room right now. You don't know what's in there. But I just told you walk in. Would you walk in? No. But imagine I turn the light on. You can see everything inside the dark room. Would you go in there? You can see everything inside the room because the light's on. Would you go in there? You would, because you know what's in there. You know what you're going to get into. Most of us are going through life in a dark room because we aren't clear on what we want from life. And until we get clear on what we want, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to achieve much. We're gonna just sit around being lazy, wasting our potential because we don't know what we want to achieve. When's the last time you set goals? You know, like, do you have long-term goals, monthly goals, weekly goals? You have projects you're working on? Do you know what the end goal is for you? Do you have a purpose? These things matter. My YouTube goal is right now to get 10 coaching clients. So I'm not just posting videos aimlessly. I'm posting videos because I want to get 10 people to click on the link in my bio so we can work together. And so everything I've done up to this point has been structured on how can I get a click? How can I get a customer? The books I read, the business books, the psychology books to improve my skills, time management, the materials I listen to, the type of video I make, how consistent I am, the scripts I write, the things I learn, like all of that comes because I know my end goal is to get 10 clients, and I know that there are going to be some steps between that will help me get there. And those steps are improving my skills, showing up consistently, marketing myself, and learning about business. So that's what I do. Now, before I had this goal, before I even had the goal to be on to create content and help people, how do you think I spent my time? I spent it doing nothing because I had no goal I was shooting for. It's like when I remember I wasn't into running as much, and then COVID hit and I wanted to get into a new hobby, and I chose running. And when I first started, it was just kind of all over the place. It wasn't consistent, it was whatever. But then I set the goal that I want to run a 7K. And when I had that end goal, now my running had completely new meaning. I would run every other day with purpose. I would eat healthier because I want to be able to have that stamina to improve my running. I read books on running. I literally would watch videos. I started stretching more. I got better sleep. I started drinking more water. I would write down how my runs felt and analyze. Like, every single thing changed once I set a goal. That's when I had more energy. That's when I was waking up with clarity. That's when I had more direction. That's when I stopped wasting time. And the same thing will happen to you when you set goals. So, what I'm going to suggest for you: set a goal. How do you set a goal? Ask yourself, what do you want to do? What do you want to be 3 months from now? So where you are right now, what do you want to be 3 months from now? And that's it. And there's obviously more that goes into goals, but this video is already going to be pretty long. I don't want to make it any longer because I want to go out for a walk. So maybe in like a different video, I'll talk about how to set like deeper goals. But honestly, I'm going to give you the map. You can search up how to set goals. ChatGPT it. Come on, man. Just have goals. I will say, to make it easier, have a whole life. So I'm going to put a whole life up. And in this, pick 3 to 5 areas that matter to you. And now when you have those areas, set goals in that. So for me, I have entrepreneur, family woman, athlete, student. I'm going to put my weekly goals up too. Because I have a whiteboard right in front of me with my weekly goals. So I have entrepreneur, family, that stuff. For entrepreneur, since I said I want to get 10 clients, my goal this week is to post 4 videos and to film 7 videos. For family, my weekly goal is to visit my grandparents twice this week and hang out with my mom 3 times. As an athlete, my weekly goal is to do push-ups 5 days out of 7. So you see, now that I have my whole life and I figured out the areas that matter to me, it's easier for me to set goals. The same thing will apply to you. You want to figure out the areas that matter to you, and then think, what goals do I want to set? And it could be long-term or short-term. I have my weekly goals. I also have long-term goals. But just to keep it simple, this is what you're going to get. So those are 3 levels. Once you break out that level, once you break out the level of not having clarity, Now you're gonna reach your goals. Now you're gonna be on the path towards getting them. Everything's gonna change for you because now you're no longer average. You're in an environment that's continuously pushing you, helping you grow, helping you think differently than the average person. You're gonna stop saying you can't. You're gonna understand that you have so much potential inside of you as a human being, and you can achieve whatever you put your mind to. Because if you didn't have the thought, if you wouldn't get the thought if you couldn't do it. Like, you're gonna really understand how much power you have inside of you and how you have everything you need. Once you understand that you are that person, you are that beach. Now you're gonna transition up to the second level of dopamine. Now, when you fix your dopamine, you're gonna have an endless amount of motivation to do the hard work. You don't need discipline like that. Like, discipline is important, but discipline without having the motivation, without having that dopamine, it's pretty much dead. So you're gonna have that endless surge of I feel like doing this, and you actually do it. And then when you have this feeling like I can do this, I can do it, you'll rise up to the third level. But now, instead of thinking, well, I don't know what to do, I want to do it, but I don't know what to do, I'm just kind of here lost, like I don't know, you'll actually have clarity because you have goals lined up. So now you can use that energy to tackle your goals and achieve them. Those are 3 levels of struggle you gotta break through. When you break through those, you will change your life completely. And I'm gonna go.